This is really incredible here. Hotel workers at several chains in Atlanta were paid to keep quiet about sex trafficking going on in their rooms, some even acting as lookouts in case the police showed up. That is what 4 federal lawsuits are now alleging. And joining me now to talk about this, the attorneys representing 4 sex trafficking survivors involved in these lawsuits. We're talking to Pat McDonough, Jonathan Tong, and Trinity Hundredmark, all involved in this. Pat, I want to start with you. I mean, the allegations, I've read through some of them, so incredibly atrocious. Even one victim who went to a hotel worker to tell this worker about a plan to escape. They then in turn told the trafficker, and she was then beat up. What else did you uncover here?
Yeah, it's horrific, really. And what it's really about is that these hotels are really putting profits over these most vulnerable people. I mean, it's amazing. We have clients, and there's multiple survivors that were sold over and over and over again. I'm talking 5, 10, 15 times in one night at these hotels. And you could have multiple survivors in the same hotel at the same night. If that's not enough, you've got hotel employees that are getting paid to be lookouts for the police, to tell them, hey, they're coming, you need to tamp down the business. You've got people that, as you mentioned, that trying to escape, and they're giving a tip to the trafficker. It goes all the way up to the brand, right? They have been told, you've got known traffickers in your hotel, right? And they're still renting rooms and making money off this. How
did you uncover this? I mean, did these women come to you, and how many more women could be out there?
I mean, there's no telling how many people are out there, but I will say that it's not a coincidence that it's the same, that 4 survivors are suing the same 4 hotels. And if you start looking into this very far in Atlanta, then you hear the same names of the same places over and over. And it's so well known that, you know, finding witnesses to this stuff, there are employees involved, but there are employees that left their job because they weren't happy with this. They didn't like what they saw. And when things happen at hotels, there are witnesses that see them happen.
We've reached out to all of the hotels that are named in your lawsuit. The only one that responded was the Red Roof Inn. They said to us that they strongly condemn sex trafficking. Obviously, they have a zero tolerance policy. They do point out this is a franchise, and they expect their employees to follow their rules. I mean, why target the hotels in the lawsuit rather than the individuals? From what we understand, this is the first lawsuit of its kind to do that.
Well, Lynn, this is about making the hotels be accountable for stuff that they knew that went on. I mean, they knew or should have known that trafficking was going on in their hotels, and law enforcement deals more directly with the specific individuals. But this is about holding hotels accountable that knew these activities were going on in their hotels all the way up the chain. The TripAdvisor reviews were out there that said this was going on, that there was criminal activity, drug activity, sex trafficking, all the way up to calls made to higher levels to CEOs, and nothing was done about it. And they just allowed it to go on because at the bottom line, they were making money and their goal was to rent rooms.
And you know, Atlanta is the epicenter for this, and we know that there is a huge movement to try and get some of these hotels to crack down. In the complaint, as many as 20 men a day visited some of these hotel rooms for a short amount of times. A huge red flag, obviously, when it comes to trafficking. But many times we see with victims, it is so difficult for them to come forward because they are abused, because they are almost like slaves in these traffickers' hands. How do you prepare women like this for this kind of trial?
Well, let me just say this. It is very difficult, but I believe it was an honor to actually meet these survivors. They are some of the most inspiring people that I've ever met. I mean, you listen to their stories and it's hard not to be moved. Every person, whether it's our clients or whether it's other survivors, are going through a very traumatic, you know, mental health injury, and they really do need help. So it is complex and it's individual and it's case by case. But we're there, and they're strong, and they're going to do it.
Jonathan, what are some of the pieces of evidence that you have? Do you have surveillance? Do you have witness statements? Talk to me about that.
I don't know if we can get into everything that we will use at trial. There are witnesses to a lot of this, and what's in the complaint we allege to be true, and we have reasons to know that it's true. I would also say that the Red Roof Inn was not a franchise during all of the time period when our survivors were trafficked there. And so the corporation ran the hotel. They knew about it. It was accountable to the corporation directly. And, you know, there's a chain of evidence. There's video, there are witnesses, there are people that saw things that they didn't like seeing at the time, and they're still willing to talk about it.
As you point out, these 4 women all pointed to the same 4 hotels. We don't know how many other places that this is happening, and the most important thing is that this is being cracked down on now. Thank you so much to all of you for being with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.